El liberalismo es una corriente del pensamiento político que surge en la Europa de la Ilustración para reivindicar los derechos y libertades del individuo. Los liberales defendemos una sociedad de ciudadanos libres e iguales ante la ley, con derechos y obligaciones, sin dogmas ni tabúes, que apuestan radicalmente por la centralidad. En España, las ideas liberales han sido clave para nuestra democracia. Sin embargo, su suerte y sus resultados han sido dispares. Cuando las crisis azotan y la polarización domina el debate público, los ciudadanos buscan refugio en la rabia, el miedo o el pasado. Aún así, y a pesar de los obstáculos, las ideas liberales siempre han encontrado el camino para resurgir, en nuestro país y en toda Europa. Por eso, hemos hablado con muchos de los grandes protagonistas liberales europeos. Nuestro objetivo no es otro que poner rostro y voz a historias de éxito y de fracaso, proyectos que tropiezan, pero que también vuelven a levantarse, en distintas latitudes, idiomas y acentos. Solo hay una receta para renovarse y ser útil a la sociedad, y no es otra que escuchar a los ciudadanos para reconectar con ellos, tener la audacia de cuestionarlo todo y la convicción de saber por qué eres necesario para tu país. La convicción, al fin y al cabo, de renovar el liberalismo. Hoy hablamos con un hombre que lo ha sido prácticamente todo en política y que, sin embargo, mantiene la misma pasión y energía que el día que empezó. Pese a que hoy se sienta en la bancada de los eurodiputados liberales y preside la conferencia sobre el futuro de Europa, este político empezó hace 35 años su trayectoria como diputado belga y terminó por convertirse en primer ministro de su país. Carismático, trabajador incansable y europeísta convencido, en la última década ha estado también en el centro de la política europea. Por supuesto, hoy conversamos con Guy Verhofstadt. Thank you very much, Guy Verhofstadt, for being here with us today. You have been everything in Belgian and European politics, but there is something in your bio that really catches my eye, and is that you became president of the party before you reached 30, and then you became minister and deputy prime minister when you were 30-something. Do you think in politics, when you look back, youth is a liability or is an asset?
I think it's certainly an asset, even when it was completely a liability for the party to elect me as leader of the party. I was 28 years old, because we were only the third or the fourth party in Belgium. Always it were the socialists and the Christian Democrats governing together, and from time to time they came to us to rescue them if there was if there were problems or no majority. So for me, when I was 28 years old, my dream was to abolish that system, the old system in Belgium, and the eternal coalition of Christian Democrats and socialists with their powerhouses, the labor unions, and so on, and you can only do that when you are 28 years old. So when I was young, the only thing what I did was writing manifestos, the one after the other. And to try to convince the party that was the way to go.
But something happened in 1995, right? You didn't manage to actually get to the premiership then, and you decided to go to Italy for a year and to return a couple of years?
That's a story. That's a myth, in fact.
It's a myth, huh?
I went not to Italy. I went to my office in the Senate in Belgium, because I was senator. My main task was to was in Belgian Parliament, and I did the inquiry into the genocide in Rwanda. The enormous tragedy in Rwanda, where 800,000 people were killed in the most brutal way, and that made me another politician by investigating in that Rwanda genocide. Also saying, also knowing that about politics is not only a question about figures and about mathematics, because I was Minister of Budget, but it's also a question of values, and you have to combine both.
But until you became Prime Minister, there was something that changed. What was the success recipe, there is one, for that, to try to actually reboot, somehow readapt, and then make it to the premiership?
The Liberal Party was an old-style Liberal Party, was the third, the fourth party of the country, middle class, and so on and so on. While what we have done was to give it a real soul, in saying, the problems in society are not because of liberalism. It's because of a lack of liberalism that there are problems. While the others, for decades, said the opposite. Yeah, because there is too much liberal democracy, there is too much free market economy, there is too much freedom of expression, everything. And we, liberal Democrats, have to fight against it.
The way you talk in the chamber is a way that not most of the liberal politicians or even conservative or socialist politicians that I know, they do.
No, you have to do...
You have the capacity of approaching because you communicate in a very different way that most of the politicians.
Well, because you have to do things directly, to say what you think, first of all, and to do it in a personal way. So when... last time, Prime Minister of Poland was there, Morawiecki.
I saw you.
I didn't talk to my colleagues. I spoke to him and said,
So what you have done is in fact putting an existential threat to your country and most of all to the people, to the Polish people, who are the most pro-European people of the entire European Union. That is what you have done.
Yeah, what are you doing? Stupid. So that's more or less what I said. And you are killing your own country.
But the thing is that way of doing politics, if you see the electoral numbers in the last 15 years, you take, for instance, the results in this House since 2004, the Socialists and the Conservatives, they have lost more than 15 points. Every elections, they go down and then you see that the Liberals, more or less steadily, they're always up and down 3 points, but they are getting good results. Are the Liberals the only political force that is stable enough to fight extremes? Because socialists and conservative, they still hold the power, but they're going down. The trend
that's true, but that is only possible if liberalism is also a radical voice in politics. There is no future for liberalism. Liberalism is simply defending the status quo. I think that liberalism, it was always a radical movement. It cannot be a moderate, conservative voice. It has to be radical. It has
extreme centrist.
And that's, I said that once to somebody that you know very well. I said, for me the future is radical centrism, but that's totally different from, for example, conservative or Christian democratic centrism or even social democracy, because that's always moderation, balance, compromises, and liberalism cannot be compromised. How you compromise on freedom of expression? It's impossible. How you compromise on the rule of law? That's impossible.
There's
How
no
you
room to negotiate those things.
Yeah, you cannot negotiate on that. It's a democracy. Is a democracy. Freedom of expression is freedom of expression. You cannot say, oh, we're going to have a little bit democracy. We're going to have a little bit of rule of law. We're going to have a little bit of freedom of expression, but all the other journalists cannot say what they want or cannot write what they want.
But why then, when it comes to liberal parties and movements, they have so extreme electoral results? Why, if you see...
Yeah, the volatility is enormous.
Because they're in the middle, polarizing, because they lost sight.
But that has a lot to do, I think, with the fact that liberal parties in general, in most countries, is a movement based on individual citizens. In a certain way, liberalism is not an ideology, also. It's a framework of principles, ideas, values, vision of the future. It's not like socialism, and certainly not like conservatism either. So that makes it more volatile than whatever other political movement. But we live in a period where volatility in politics is in the past, in the Netherlands, also in our country, when there was a party winning or losing 3 seats, that was a revolution. Today, 3 seats.
And now they go from 50 to nothing.
Exactly. And that is, in my opinion, the consequence of the social media a lot. And there we have a real fight for liberalism, because social media, as we see them today, with their algorithms behind, are destroying liberal democracy in a certain way.
We see that nowadays there are some big countries in Europe that they have liberal movements that they are on it slow. They are fighting to survive. Any other advice you could give those kind of movements to try to recover the stamina, to try to reboot the project?
Yeah, to put everything in question. To put everything in question, because that's liberalism. You put yourself in question all the time. Then to have radical proposals and show to people that you have a solution in your basket for their problems.
So the last 2 questions I want to make. The first one is your biggest political success, And your biggest political, well, I don't want to say failure, but
well, to break the monopoly of power by Christian Democrats, conservatives, and socialists. Yeah,
break the partidism is what in Spain we rally on from Ciudadanos. Break the
I think so, because in the meanwhile, since that moment, it are always liberal prime minister, so that means that it is that we succeeded. The biggest failure, and it's not a failure, I think, but I still didn't succeed to fundamentally change something in Europe.
Well, I doubt that. You have changed many things.
No. It's still a confederation of nation states deciding on unanimity, always acting too little, too late. But okay, it's never too late. So maybe with the Conference on the Future of Europe, we can succeed.